Hello, you're Steve Banwart. You're Professor of Environmental Engineering Science at the University of Sheffield in the United Kingdom.
That's right.
Could you quickly describe your area of research, please?
Okay. I do environmental engineering science, so that means I do engineering principles, things like analyzing how the natural environment behaves, looking for solutions to problems. And part of the science that I do is definitely geochemistry, looking at how, in particular at the moment, how soils behave. Also, I look at pollution in groundwater and how to clean that up, and I've worked on nuclear waste disposal. So really a lot of applied aspects of how humans use the geosphere.
Okay, great. What did you most enjoy in your career?
Well, I think the funnest thing that I've done is to learn more biology. About halfway through my career, really, biogeochemistry and geomicrobiology really became big areas of research. And so geochemists were either working in those fields or wanted to learn those things, and I think that that's been one of the funnest things that I've done, is to learn more biology and to work much more with biologists, and that's been great.
Okay. What did you least enjoy, actually?
Well, I think one of the most frustrating things that I've had during my career is I felt I've never fit into any prescribed discipline or any prescribed course of study. So even as a undergraduate student and as a postgraduate student, I felt that the areas that you were allowed to study, the programs of study that were available were so, to me, very narrow, and I think they still are. I've always wanted to mix things like geosciences and engineering, and to mix things like chemistry and biology, and to mix applied work with molecular science, and that's quite challenging, and it's been frustrating at times, especially as a younger scientist, to try to find out how to accommodate those interests and how to make use of all that.
Now, if you still had another 40 years, and I'm not saying you're not going to have another 40 years, but what would you do? Okay.
Well, my dad turned 90 last September, and he still does 30 push-ups a day, and he knows who I am, so I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I might have it. And I think that right now, humanity is really at a critical point. I mean, it's really amazing the challenges that the next 20 years, let alone the next 40 years, are going to throw up. And the good example is that probably we will need to double food production on the planet in the next 40 years. And this will require a doubling in the demand of clean water, and we'll probably have a 50 to 60% increase in the demand for fuel. So these types of challenges for humanity are massive. And so for geosciences and for people like me that work at that interface between geosciences and application, there's a lot of things to be done. And I think this issue of food security and how we use the geosphere to grow food and feed everybody is really, really tough. It's doable, but that's something I think is really worth working on. It's something that I'm really interested in.
Okay, okay. Would you have any advice to junior researchers?
Go to sessions that you know nothing about when you go to a conference like EGU. Go through the program and look at a few things that you maybe have heard about, maybe only from the newspaper, or because you had a roommate who studied a subject that you didn't know very much about, but you'd heard about it from them, anything like that. Go and look through the program and think of yourself as just a citizen who's interested in science, and pick a few things that you just want to learn about and go sit in on those. So don't just hang around with the people that you know from your discipline, but go introduce yourself and find out what's going on amongst groups of scientists that you've never met before.
Yeah, indeed. You've been a member of the Council of the European Association of Geochemistry for about 5 years now. How do you perceive the EAG has changed during this time on the Council? And maybe where would you like to see the EAG go in the future?
Well, I think there's been a step change in the last few years. I think that Alex Halliday, and then continuing with Eric Elkers as our past two presidents, really have provided a much stronger vision and level of energy, and I think that we all agreed with that and have really supported that. And I think that one of the consequences of that is that our professional standards are much higher, and I think we're starting to develop much greater intellectual capital, if you will, and that relays into external credibility, and that probably starts with external credibility with fellow scientists and scientific organizations around the world. And I think we have done a good job of that. And of course, that's an ongoing job, and there's much more to do. But I think that there has been a step change.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.